those who want to see me and Johnny and Micah in the studio. And also, we do, for those who like to not only watch us in the studio, but look at the articles we cover, we put them on screen as well, and you can follow along all the information. But
It,
yeah,
yeah, so we're really developing our streaming video aspect, and we're excited about it. So everybody that plugs in, tunes in, shares those, thank you. All the thumbs up, etc. We want to continue to do this for another decade. Thank you, KPFT, for the opportunity to reach even more people here on the 100,000 watts of power FM. There's also a art opening over at G Spot, and I'll probably talk about that a little bit. But let's get into some news, and I'll break it up with some happenings just to change it up, you know? Because I mean, after all this brutal news, don't you want to know about something like art at G Spot? I mean, what about that? Does everybody know where G Spot is? I hope so. Um,
9th Street, right?
yeah, that's what I hear. So we got another news headline, and this time it's not Officer Goins, but it seems like members of the HPDs. They love to jump up in the news, or they just maybe the media just hounds them too much or something. I don't know. But it turns out another veteran, long-term veteran, they're not just these rookie cops, it seems. This 10-year veteran of the HPDs, so he was a long-term member. Uh, who was recently assigned to Hobby Airport, out there where they do things at the airport, right? Turns out he's been charged with felony assault of a child, sexual assault. Let's go ahead and add that adjective in there, felony sexual assault of a child. The charge was filed Tuesday, and the former officer, it's really, really messed up. So he resigned from the department after the charge, and he is 41, is accused of having sex with a minor who was engaged in prostitution. He paid $180 at least for the experiences, which took place at a hotel, motel at 88 Notel at 8800 block of Airport Boulevard, right near Hobby Airport. How about that? According to documents, it took place in September. Situation came to light when the minor was actually picked up for prostitution in Las Vegas, and that's when the individual said that she had had sex with a officer in Houston, and they began digging into it. Navid Ashraf, 41. Um, let's see. He posted a $10,000 bond on Tuesday. So, yeah, I mean, this is one of those situations, you'd like to think these things don't happen, but it seems like these things do happen, and maybe a little bit too much. I'm not sure. I mean, really. I trust in authority there, right? And this girl was being trafficked. Here we have like human trafficking, and uh, turns out that I was trying to find this other article that went in a little bit more detail that was saying that she met up with the officer, and she thought he was going to take her somewhere, and he took her to a hotel and helped her check in, and then came and said, "I want to come see you at the hotel." So he may, for all we know, this could be the surface level of a much deeper thing. For all we know, this guy could have been involved in trafficking. Obviously, if he's having sex with her, he is involved in more than he needs to be, and it's kind of sad. Yes, it is. I just didn't want to move on before I found that one detail, so I do appreciate everybody's patience because I don't want to leave out those important aspects, um, for sure. So what's going on, Derek? What do you think
Well,
about this?
I mean, it's unfortunate that we have many episodes of this show that
Here's what I was looking for
that
too.
go into these topics on the local level, and we've reiterated. I think it's worth reiterating that there are police, there are pastors and priests and principals and all other sorts of authority figures that end up doing this,
And,
not just in
and
Houston.
maybe that's a word we need to dig deeper into also as the episodes go on. What is authority? Anyway, I'm going to wrap this one up real quick. The girl later told investigators a sex trafficker brought her to Houston and put her up in a hotel a few days before she met the officer she called Copper. Um, she thought that he was going to arrest her for prostitution. I'm sure that fear tactic they work in there too.
Yep.
Instead, he took her to McDonald's and Walgreens in his patrol car before he dropped her off at the hotel. Then he called her later that night and said he wanted to come to her room. They had
This is
set,
a cop, right?
yep, 10-year veteran. It turns out a week later, the 16-year-old child was arrested for prostitution in Las Vegas. She told police there she had sex with a cop while she was in Houston. They confiscated her cell phone and found evidence that backed up her claim, including a photo of the officer at Hobby Airport where he was on duty, and text messages and phone calls from Copper. Las Vegas police alerted HPD and they launched an investigation. Um, well, who knows how deep these things go, but that's a pretty serious thing, and it's right here in Houston. I mean, I what is it, the sex trafficking hub?
That's what they say. We got a phone call, Micah, on this story. Is it on this story, Johnny? Yeah, all right, let's go to that phone call real quick then before we move on. Who do we got on the line? With what's on your mind?
I mean, you guys are talking about the story, but the way you're talking about it, you almost enjoy telling the story. Like, yeah, let's get one against the cops. Why are you telling the story like you're happy about it?
Oh, we're not happy about it. It's what we were just saying a moment
I
ago.
don't remember anybody saying anything about, like, hey, look at this great thing here.
Well,
It's like anything to get a jab at the police force.
not just the cops.
Well, don't you think that you should jab the cops for this one? I'm not saying it's a horrible thing, but you guys are almost
Then why
like,
defend it?
oh man, I can't wait to tell this story on the radio. This is great.
I don't think anybody said that either.
Well, sir, what we were focused on.
That's how you guys are portraying it. Like, yeah, one for our side. Yeah.
Well, what it's more about is calling out authority. If you were listening a moment ago, Micah.
And so, yes, in a way, it is for our side. In a way, it's for freedom to be able to catch people who violate the law. And being in a position of authority, using that authority to exploit a child, is something we are happy to reveal and thankful for KPFT to give us the opportunity.
You guys are funny, man.
Well, we appreciate the call, and to reiterate what we were saying and trying to get to the point of is that there are people in positions of authority. Yes, sometimes those are law enforcement officers. Sometimes they are pastors or priests or principals or teachers or parents, and often or Boy Scout leaders. We've talked about that. Big lawsuits going on in the Boy Scout community. There are people when they get put in these positions of authority that take advantage of that, and yeah, so it's not about our side versus the other
Well,
side.
let's
or
talk
something
about
like
it for a
that.
minute like that, though.
I mean, wouldn't it do injustice to the victims to not bring it up if no one else is talking about it? Like the fact that this does take place and this does happen. We're not necessarily saying every cop is that way, but hey, here's an example.
If it's one side that calls out authority for violating things in front of the law that we're all held accountable for, then I want to be on that side. If I'm given a microphone and an opportunity to speak truth to power, I want to be on the side that says at least, hey, look, this child was a 16-year-old girl. We live in a sex trafficking hub. Who knows how much deeper this is? This is the same sort of story that if we just shut up on the Tuttles last January, we wouldn't have continued to reveal and have conversations with dozens and dozens of people about what is the proper role of authority, and what happens in these situations. So, yeah, I mean, if you want to make it an our side, their side sort of thing, then yeah, I am happy to call this out. And if it was a officer, a TSA agent, a school bus driver, these sort of things, we're going to call it out.
If it was a radio host.
Yeah, if it was a well-loved radio host, I believe so. If it was someone that's set up in a position of reverence and authority, and they're exploiting people in this sort of way and violating the very oaths of which they've taken, then you bet we're going to be happy to reveal that.
Yeah, thanks for that call, though. We're going to move on now to some more Houston news in just a second. We talked about this story last week, and this is actually a story that lit up the phone calls last week.
And I sure wasn't happy to talk about that one either. That's horrible.
Not at all. But so we just talked about the pedophilia within the Houston Police Department, at least this one officer. And last week we talked about surveillance in the city of Houston, efforts to turn Houston into a further police state as part of the smart city push. And Micah read the article about that was coming from a local newspaper. And after that, I was even struck by that. I hadn't seen the story before the show started. And obviously you listeners across Houston were struck by it because you called immediately. And you basically said, we need to know more about this. There are plenty of you who are concerned. And we did have a couple people who called in and said, hey, well, if it keeps me safer, then I'm okay with it, right? So we played all those viewpoints. But what I did is I went back and found the actual press conference, and I clipped out the segments of the press conference where Police Chief Art Acevedo and Mayor Turner we're speaking about the surveillance issue. And I know we got a caller on the line. We'll just hold on for a few more minutes. We got this story to cover. I know Micah's got another one, and we're definitely going to take your calls at 713-526-5738. But right now, we're going to play this press conference from last week where Police Chief Art Acevedo and Mayor Sylvester Turner start describing what sort of technological advancements they want for the Houston Police Department. We got it?
It's going to be got.
Starting to creep up.
There we go.
It's starting to creep up. Not just. Finally, I think it's important that we acknowledge that violent crime is starting to creep up. It's starting to creep up, not just in Houston, not just in Harris County, but it's starting to creep up around the country.
Today, I'm announcing the allocation of an additional $1.5 million for officers overtime to target violent crime throughout the city of Houston for a 6-month period. I have asked Chief Acevedo to work on a proposal for technology enhancements to include an upgrade of the real-time crime center and smart cameras so that we can leverage much-needed technology to be responsive to violent crime in the city. Even though we have more police officers than we did 4 years ago, we still need about 600 more. In the meantime, until that can take place, we need to supplement our men and women in blue who are on our streets with enhanced technology. Quite frankly, we need more eyes. And so I've asked Chief Acevedo and his team to put forth what it will take, a proposal for the technology enhancement. And the estimated cost of that is about $8.5 million. And I'm going to ask the private philanthropic community in our city to help to fund the technology enhancements. And quite frankly, we need those technology enhancements, and we need those right now.
So the $8.5 million would go towards public safety camera system that will be spread out throughout the city, that will give a capability for our partners, both in the private sector and individual homeowners, to opt into this system. Will the police department will be able to real time have access to cameras. It will give us the opportunity to actually capture video and hold it for up to about 40 hours. 5 days, so we can actually go back and real time, actually either real time or afterwards, when we know there was a crime being committed, actually get the leads that we'll need to go out and find these criminals. It will include a shot spotter, which is a gunshot detection system, which we are already getting ready to deploy. That thanks to the mayor's leadership, we've been able to get 5 square miles that we're in the process of deploying now, that will help us be a lot smarter. Well, there's already cameras that have been provided through Ring, that we had a Ring provided a lot of cameras for us, but a lot of folks already have their own camera system. They can actually opt in. We'll be able to tap into camera systems with other partners, other government partners, and so when you can put eyes across the entire area, think about in the I think it was 2007, when in Great Britain, their transportation infrastructure was attacked, because they have a camera system, about 40 million cameras across the nation, and they were actually able to back up and actually follow these terrorists all the way to where they started their journeys. And so we need that virtual watch, that virtual capability, and thanks to the mayor, hopefully we'll get it.
We need more eyes on our streets. Let me just add, I've also asked Centerpoint to join with us in providing additional cameras and others. So but the city needs to have the tools, the technology, in order to really get on top of it. To develop that smart city, we need those tools. And you can't do it without investing in technology.
Well, ShotSpotter has agreed to give us a 1-year pilot that will cover 5 square mile area that we will be deploying in the south part of the city. And what that does is that when it hears the gunshots, it immediately zeroes it in, locates it, and quite frankly, sends us information on where it's at. We get immediate alerts, and our people, instead of going there blindly, it's coming. We're excited. I think that the mayor agitating, ShotSpotter, myself and my team here, the executive assistant chiefs, we're going to hopefully be able to show the value, and maybe it'll be the beginning of a system citywide or much more spread out. It's going to be the south part of the city. We're not going to tell you specifically where, because that's tactical. It will target hotspots and locations throughout the entire city. And so if you want to give a gift to the people of Houston that will be here and paying dividends long after you're gone, write that check. And I think that's what the mayor's talking about.
So Mr. Derrick,
Okay, so that was you're listening to Freethinker Radio on 90.1 KPFT Houston. That was clips from last week's press conference with Mayor Sylvester Turner and Police Chief Art Acevedo. And now what we're about to play the next couple minutes is just I went to City Council on Tuesday to try to share some of the concerns. And again, they said they're partnering with Amazon Ring. They were asking Centerpoint, which is the electric company, to get access to more cameras, and they've talked about installing Spot Shotter, which, as they said, is a gunshot detecting device that has been installed in other cities and has already raised privacy concerns, because much like your Amazon Echoes and Google Nests and all that stuff, they're not just recording when they hear a gunshot. They're recording all the time. So go ahead and play that real quick, Johnny. This is just a couple days ago at Houston City Council.
Derrick Broze, to be followed by Yash Padaya.
Afternoon, Mr. Mayor, council members who are still here. I'm going to talk to you about public-private partnerships based on a press conference held last week. But first, I came here back in late January to introduce myself to some of the newer members, and I did follow up with an email to all of you about pertinent information about the 5G concerns that local residents have brought to me. So if you check your emails and just search 5G, you should probably find that. And I also emailed you this morning. As I said, a public-private partnership. Last week, the mayor held a press conference along with Police Chief Art Acevedo, seeking $8.5 million in private investments. And I know that Ms. Cisneros and Ms. Evan Shabazz, as well as Ms. Acorn were present. Ms. Alcorn were there. So I really, again, check your emails, because I sent you an email about this a couple hours ago. But I think there's some things that we should be bringing attention to, particularly in this press conference. The mayor mentioned the city working with Amazon and Amazon's Ring. For those who are unfamiliar, Amazon's doorbell camera is called Ring, and they've started to partner with hundreds of police departments around the country. Cities like Detroit and New Orleans are already operating what are sometimes known as green light camera systems, where the businesses and people's homes start voluntarily giving police access to their camera systems. And I've sent you these links in your email, so please check that. But when you start looking into the research, there are a number of cities and privacy activists, as well as lawyers with the American Civil Liberties Union, who are concerned about the relationship that Amazon has with local police departments and with governments, specifically by giving them access to people's doorbell cameras. Amazon also has discussed plans to install facial recognition camera software on their doorbell cameras. So there are many people raising awareness about how this could change privacy in a city like Houston, where you have police who are having access to doorbell cameras as well as CCTVs, not to mention the thousands of cameras that have already been installed by the Department of Homeland Security. Again, I sent you guys a number of articles. Senator Ed Markey, a Democrat from Massachusetts, sent a letter to Amazon's Jeff Bezos asking for information on Ring recently, saying he was concerned about troubling reports regarding Ring and facial recognition technology. One of the other tools that was mentioned, and again, I did send you guys links to this, was the mayor and Mr. Acevedo said they're already testing Spot Shotter, which is a technology, again, I recommend looking into this. Spot Shotter has been installed in places like Chicago and other cities, and essentially it's a recording device that's supposed to only turn on whenever it hears a gunshot. But we're already seeing in other cases, there have been people have been tried based on evidence that was gathered from Spot Shotter recording. These devices don't just turn on randomly whenever they hear a gunshot. They're recording at all times. And so there are already lawsuits going on. Again, I will be filing open records request on the journalistic side of things. But what I've seen, what people are kind of calling for, and I guess what I'm asking of you guys, is one, as we're moving forward with this partnership with Amazon, Spot Shotter, have you guys brought in any protections for privacy that are already being implemented? Are there plans to introduce resolutions to talk about that, or to form a committee to make sure that people's data is being protected as we go forward?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Your time has expired.
Thank you.
Please do check your emails.
Thank you.
All right. So welcome back to Freethinker Radio. That was me, Derrick, talking to the Houston City Council just 3 days ago on Tuesday, raising the alarm bells again about this push towards the smart city that the mayor keeps talking about, which is of course part of the whole 5G rollout, which we've talked about for the last year and a half. Micah, what do you think about that? Them partnering with public-private partnership, asking for $8.5 million from Amazon or for anybody to help them fund the Amazon partnership, and they're already doing with Ring doorbell cameras. They're doing in 5 miles of South Houston with this Spot Shotter thing.
I think it's interesting. I think the main thrust of their sales argument was that it's philanthropic to invest in surveillance, that they can go after a crime back 5 days None of it
terrorism threat
stops
still worked
crime.
for people.
It's after the fact.
I think terrorists know about cameras by now.
And you can add the Ring camera with our new Sesame credit system that isn't ours yet, and add that you rode down the wrong side of the street on a bicycle because a Ring camera reported you.
Well, people need to. I want to remind the audience who might, or maybe never knew, or just might not have heard that Google. It's not that Google and these American companies are some sort of, kind of just innocent partners or something. All this. Google, through their Project Dragonfly, helped build a censored search engine for the Chinese government, for their people. So I mean, they're actively playing a role in this. Of course, Facebook and all the other companies, they comply with whatever edicts the communist authoritarian government of China says. So they say that you need to censor this information or whatever.
And then they know how to do it better when they have to do it anywhere else.
It's like the same thing with that. I hope you guys get it figured out.
A week ago that Cisco and IBM went
have a good one. Bye.
to China, and in a small country or city that's 2.5 million, and built that Huawei 5G solution. Huawei is just the vendor, the contractor that used IBM and Cisco's technology in 2012. And that's what's being rolled out right now in Britain and Australia and Canada. So, yeah, the infrastructure is built by transnational corporations. The 1984 aspect is real. I think it's real. And then that we have different multi-faceted assaults into different things, like every 2 years we have these colds or these viruses. Whatever angle or stick they can use to get this implemented, they're going to use. So I'm trying to bring the discussion either a populace has no say, like China, to the nation states where, we give up our liberties for a sense of security. To this last caller, if that was your child that was raped, would you care about, the officer being, brought out to the public forum and ridiculed? That complacent, and this is the same aspect that's driving this, being complacent and ignorant on something that's going right underneath your feet, let alone, I'll call it righteous justice, protecting your own children. I think it's awareness, Derrick, and concern for not just yourself, because that's the only thing that gets people these days to do something. I just want to put that kind of.
All right, thank you for that, man. We always appreciate your insights and calling into the show.
Love you, MOD.
All right, guys, let's go to some music, Michael. We got 20 minutes left. You want to hit some music?
Yeah, let's at least get into that one song you were talking about. Someone.
I have a song. It's not a song. It's more of like a beat groove. It's only a couple minutes long, but it's something that's groovy for your afternoon.
I forgot to pull yours up, Derrick. I got it.
Oh, come on.
I got this.
We're getting into both of them.
I got this scattershot. It's going to come up. I'll
Play
play
a
that
couple of songs, and we'll be back. This is Freethinker Radio on 90.1 KPFT Houston. We got more news to cover. We want to take your phone calls, 713-526-5738. We'll be right back.
You're waiting for? So it's sitting here. How long is it? No, it's not that. It's just an instrument.
might say it again.
You didn't even listen to like the first 1 second.
No, I
of
totally
it.
forgot. I've been writing lyrics for this song, but I think he's gonna do that again at some point. Just play it halfway through and we can fade out. We really got a little bit of time.
I'm listening. Just
Yeah, you'll hear if you hear him say that voodoo, he's about to say it.
Run that shit up.
You got it. I told you.
All right. Welcome back to Freethinker Radio, 90.1 KPFT Houston. My name is Derrick Broze. I'm here with Micah Jackson and Johnny. We've been having a lively show.
Lively show, lively. Lots of fun.
some lively callers too.
Yeah.
Definitely. Always happy for the calls, and we've got a little bit of time left. You can call in at 713-526-5738. I know we got a lot of things to cover, but I do want to shout out some events that I think they happened before we'll be on FM again. We got Ganesha Forever Miles and Dylan Trim's new band Bones at Red Dwarf on March 12th. And that should be a lot of fun. I think that's a Thursday coming up. And also, I did say I was going to talk about G-Spot as often as possible. I'm just joking. There's a opening David Paulitzer Photo Fest reception. We will be in Photo Fest. If y'all are in Houston, you know about that. A lot of galleries will be opening up to photos, things like that. You get around and see more of that.
G-Spot tomorrow?
Yeah, it's opening tomorrow, 6 p.m. It'll be the reception. Always fun to get to these sort of things. Go to comedy or music or art receptions such as G-Spot, 310 East 9th Street. And I was reading a little bit about David Paulitzer. You can read more about him in the event. It turns out they're going to really step it up, have a double reception. Yeah, he uses his... anyway, you can get into it. We got a lot more news to
I just
talk
want to
about.
mention that, Michael, while you throw in that event, and also mention the G-Spot Gallery. I forgot to mention this at the beginning of the show. I have an event at G-Spot Gallery. You'll be hearing about this over the next few weeks. It's at the end of the month. If you want to write things down in your calendar and your phone, Saturday, March 28th, I'm going to be doing the Houston premiere for my documentary, The 5G Trojan Horse, which is going to be a previously unseen version. It's just basically the director's cut, I guess you could say. There's already a free version online for those who want to see that at the Conscious Resistance YouTube channel, which is also where we're live streaming right now. But Saturday, March 28th at the G-Spot Gallery, we'll be talking about that throughout the month.
No doubt, no doubt. That sounds good. One last local story. It's out in the Chronicle. We've talked about the incidents because just like with the officer one, we want to reveal when the positions of authority violate that trust. That's even worse than some obscure individual committing the crime because, they're undermining trust. And one of these is, when teachers do a similar act. And thank goodness we're not alone in this because now also we were reporting on them from what we read and what we found. But it turns out that HISD trustees are troubled that it took police a year to arrest teachers accused of sexual abuse. Maybe it took that long to build the case. I don't know. But there have been 3 employees accused of inappropriately touching children in the recent months. In separate interviews, 4 trustees said they are deeply troubled by an unexplained gap between the disclosure of the misconduct allegations and the arrests that the police made just recently. One of the accused educators switched schools within the district and continued to teach for nearly 6 months after this was reported. before he was arrested. 6 months more. You want to leave your kid in that kindergarten teacher's classroom for 6 months? Or you want someone to talk about it? The 3 men were accused of elementary age schoolgirls, okay? And so I'm not going to go any further about that. But the point is to reveal, not... MOD brought up a point about having it in the public and having them ridiculed, but I think that may be just a fallout, a result of doing an act like that you feel ridiculed if someone talks about it. That's why you have to hide it. But I think it's more about bringing forth that we can't blindly trust authority, no matter who it is. And we can't blindly trust these institutions. And those are the concerns with the surveillance state, because that puts so much more power in the narrative of those individuals.
And people shouldn't be afraid to
So yeah,
talk
this is
about
out in the Houston Chronicle. It's a very long story. I'm not going to get into all the details. We've talked about it, but it's horrible, the things they talk about with these kids. But I am glad to hear that the HISD board of trustees is also dissatisfied with the amount of time it took.
Yeah, and I think that's something that when this topic does come up, that parents should definitely be concerned about, whether it happens in the church, the Boy Scouts, the school, wherever, is how come you can look at institution by institution. Last year we covered everything from the Southern Baptist Church in Texas that was under the investigation of the Chronicle, the Jehovah's Witnesses in Australia, there's another church in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, it's non-denominational.
All over,
yeah.
Right? But in every case, and the Boy Scouts as well, it seems like in every case, the Catholic Church, a classic example, that there's an effort to conceal it and to hide it and to cover it up, or to just send the pastor to a different church or send the teacher to a different school. You know what I mean? And so this is what would be most concerning to me as a parent or just a human being with younger friends.
It's almost like a social version of the too big to fail. Right?
Because
if someone else on your street talked to you about it, you'd be more suspected. But when it's when it's a teacher or an officer, there seems to be this resistance to even investigating it quite often.
Yeah, and I think what you said, though, as far as like too big to fail, people, it's like in an institution, they're like, well, hey, if we let this out to the public, then this is going to reflect badly on our mission, or we might lose some money, or... I mean... I can't hear it.
Yeah, you're right though. It does affect the bottom line, and I do think that there's a desire to delay that stuff getting out, thinking, well, we've got it contained. We're going to slap him on the wrist, move him to a crummy parish or something. Well, there's no children to be molested in the crummy parish. Maybe they're not thinking of the future, and they're thinking of their immediate losses.
Yeah, I think they just want to cover up and conceal. I mean,
I think they need to reread
whether it's the bottom line or because...
And what's sad about it is...
there's a culture.
Nobody joins a church, at least not most, right, to do bad. But what's happening here is they're undermining their very institutions, the Boy Scouts, the police, all these things, and turning them into what we were talking about now, which is almost like evil institutions, once the institution itself is hiding it.
I just don't see why you wouldn't create a culture where...
I definitely appreciate all the calls we've had today. Even the caller who called in and accused us of being happy about those kinds of stories. I don't think that we were, celebrating it in any way. And hopefully people understand now why we feel the importance to spend time on and talk about those topics.
Turns out that South Korea has announced a stimulus package of 11.7 trillion won, that's 9.8 billion, to cushion the impact of coronavirus.
Yeah, let's get into some of the corona stuff, because you're talking about the financial aspect there, and I think that it's important because, well, a big impact of
we saw it hitting the stock market.
It's already hitting the stock market. They're saying the worst since 2008, right? Then we have a decrease in travel, so people are already feeling that in that part of the economy, whether it's planes, trains, buses. The Houston area now, I think, has 6 confirmed cases. And I do want to say that I personally don't want to contribute to the fear, panic. I've already seen parts of Houston, people buying all the water, buying supplies, and what I mentioned earlier that I want to spend a couple minutes on, since we've arrived here at coronavirus now, is one of the things that worries me, Micah, because if you've searched around online outside of mainstream sources, you probably see that there's a lot of different theories going around, people trying to figure out how this happened. The explanation that this came from some seafood market seems to be inadequate and not really a full explanation of what exactly happened. Others maybe are just concerned of how to stay safe, right? But the point is, there's a lot of information floating around online, and in response to that, the World Health Organization, Facebook, YouTube, the usual characters have come together and said, we're going to help stop the flow of disinformation and
Ministry of Truth,
fake news, and things like that. So they're doing fact-checking, which we've talked about on this show, how that continues to get worse. And I want to just give another example that a friend of mine who is an independent journalist, a writer, he put out an article that was pretty extensive, and it covered a whole range of news reported in the mainstream from American press as well as foreign press, because you might not hear in the American press, but and it may mean nothing to you, but it's just a fact of the matter that the president of Venezuela, Maduro, as well as officials in Iran have accused or have made speculation that this virus could have been engineered by the U.S. as an attack on China and Iran. I mean, they're just floating theories, right? Like I said, give them as much weight as you want. My point is there's a lot of information that's not reported in the American press that you can find online. For example, people who are just Chinese citizens posting videos on Twitter that are getting out and getting shared around that you wouldn't see in the mainstream. And so there's a lot of questions, a lot of people concerned about what's the original source of this. Am I really safe? There's people saying like this treatment can keep you safe, this thing. There's people floating the idea of vaccines. And so we wrote an article trying to make sense of all that, and we reported some of the claims by different credentialed scientists that have said, hey, this looks to be a potentially bioengineered weapon. They didn't say who made it, where it came from, who left it there, whatever. They didn't make those insinuations, but they just, based on their experience and looking at it, they found this information, right? So we quoted different folks, and just this morning we get a message from one of these Facebook fact checkers saying that, the story has been partially flagged as partially false because we started out with facts that were false to begin with. So they already started on the assumption of like that's fake from the beginning, so we don't even have to consider it. And apparently even making the caveat that, hey, here's this doctor says this claim, but the mainstream says this is fake, that wasn't enough. My point is that this is a bigger picture that I think is only going to get worse as we get closer to this election.
Because it's not just about the facts. It's also about that none of that information is out, even stated in a factual
well, who gets to decide the facts?
This doctor stated this, and what the doctor states is a refuted fact of theirs. Let's just say it's like, let's call it a false. But it's claiming that this doctor said that now is being omitted from the discussion.
The people can't even know that. The people can't even know that somebody, whether you think they're real or not, the people are not even supposed to know that there are alternative opinions.
The thing that drives me crazy about this whole situation is it's insulting.
Then they don't even know who had these opinions. Maybe I don't know. They don't know who had these opinions, and they can't follow up. And it's just a void.
Well, I think that we're at a point, and we've seen this.
And how many times have we had to say you're not alone to someone? What if that doctor felt that way, alone doing that research, and there was another doctor across the world somewhere, and they're about to make the breakthrough, and they've been recommending this course of medicine the whole time, but now they've discovered this, and it flies in the face of all that medicine, but it's the cure.
Well, back to what we were saying earlier about hurting people's bottom line or their interest or their goals or their narratives. And so we've seen this, for example, even on this show when we've talked about stories about vaccines, right? For example, I don't know if we mentioned this last week, there's a couple of professors from Arizona University that wrote an opinion piece recently saying that if you're not vaccinated, you shouldn't be allowed to fly because that's how these viruses and illness spread so easily is through people who are unvaccinated, those anti-vaxxers again, right? So that kind of idea, and when we've talked about that conversation, we've had people call into the show and say, you guys shouldn't be allowed on air. We've also had people say, thank you for talking about this. But my point is, when it comes to those topics, say vaccines or the coronavirus or whatever it may be, there's an established set of opinions or facts, let's call them, quote unquote.
How did I not think of that?
And then anything counter to that is you can't even give it, time of day, right? It's not about being balanced because even giving that alternative view a day in court is bad, right? I mean, that's the thing is like you can't even let the people hear that there might be an alternative theory.
I was wondering if there's a button
theory,
because,
like at that point.
It's like even letting them know in the way we did in the article, to say, hey, there's a doctor that says this.
Dude, they had like
by the way, according to these mainstream
4
sources,
minutes
they believe
of
this
dead
is
air.
false. Even that
this
was
reminds me of historically fundamentalism. This reminds me of fundamentalism in thought. There's a movie called Agora where the Library of Alexandria is being destroyed, and a religious fanaticism is taking over, and they can't handle any different thoughts. There's something about it that just reminds me of and smacks of this sort of fundamentalism. Like, this is it. We know these facts so much that we don't even have to prove them anymore. We just delete everything that we don't consider a fact.
Yeah, and I want to say that, like I said, there's a lot of different opinions. I know we're winding down here. There's folks that say the numbers are being inflated. Things are not as bad as we're being told, right? This is just like past epidemics. Or people say, no, it's much worse than we're being told, and, they're skewing the numbers that way. And people are saying this politician's not reacting quick enough and this and that. What I worry more about than arguing over the theories of where it started, which I think is valid and we should have a time for that conversation, what I worry more about, and we've talked about this already, is the response to this, right? Because real, fabricated, bioengineered, seafood market, eating bats, whatever you want to say, the way that they respond, in the last couple of days, the World Health Organization has said the only way to stop the spread of this is if countries take the same extreme containment measures that China took. And we've talked about China was welding people's doors shut, keeping them in their own homes. China was dragging people through the streets. And that's the way they're saying, well, they were successful in stopping the spread of the virus. And if more countries take those extreme containment measures, we might stop it. So I'm more afraid of the overreaction to this coming from government officials and things of that sort. That's what worries me.
I think you're I think that's justified concerns for sure. And I think most of the audience, if they hear and have reason, would agree with you. We have no reason historically to believe they don't overreact, you know. If nothing else, they're going to be selling us the next solution, which is that eventually.
Yeah. All right, guys. I think we're starting to wind down. This is Freethinker Radio, 90.1 KPFT Houston. Micah, you said you had some tickets to give away, right? Maybe somebody call in at the last minute?
Yeah, if anybody wants to call in the last moment here, we've got some tickets to give away to
Comedy Hub?
To Comedy Hub Houston. I forgot who it is.
Brouhaha.
Nope, that's free. But we've got some tickets. I got some tickets, and it is somebody that was on Comedy Central. So if comedy's your thing, and you remember us talking about it earlier, and you don't think we still have tickets, we do. So,
call in 713-526-5738. Until next time, guys, thank you for listening. This has been Freethinker Radio. Peace.
Changes to the Pacifica Foundation bylaws
I ain't going to be able to find that fast enough.
found on the foundation's website
Like you think we don't have
at
tickets?
www.pacifica.org for review. These amendments have been voted on by the Pacifica National Board and are to be voted on by individual station delegates, followed by a membership vote.
We're going to do
We're
going to do post-game show, but we're going to go over post-show game with y'all, but we're going to go to the other room. So if you can deal with us just patiently for half a minute, we'll run into another room if Derrick can carry all his stuff properly. And we'll just talk to y'all a few moments, because we love that part of this.
That worked out somehow.
Don't break my camera. Why do you always say that, Micah? Want me to carry anything?
Grab that other thing.
What is it?
The other cord. It's attached to the other camera, which we don't really need that one right now. But we'll just bring it off a bit. It's on the back there. What's up, brother?
Having fun. We got a band caller today.
Oh, yeah?
It's always fun. Dang, it's a nice day outside, dude. No, we're about to.
Did we already what?
I think you were saying, did you already wind it down?
Oh.
That was a good show.
Yeah, that one guy.
That was fucking funny, man.
Yeah,
I
he got
wasn't
mad
having it.
towards the end.
I was like, I literally got my adrenaline running.
He got me mad towards the end.
I'm like, dude, are you kidding me?
Yeah, because he was
Are you
just jumping.
kidding me? Like, he's like, oh, y'all sound like you're so stoked. It's like,
I'm
do you
like,
have
fine.
any positive inflection in her voices?
I'm like, fine, I'll run with that. You bet. You want to do it that way? You bet. I'm
Yeah,
happy.
screw that. That's what I'm saying, man. Like yeah.
You want me to find something to be happy about this? Yeah. You bet. I was like.
What's up, guys? What's up? What's up? What's up?
What's up? We're still here. This is the other. I guess this is the call room, the call central here at KPFT Houston.
Room.
This is where we hang out and sometimes get free food. There's our box over there where we get CDs and stuff in.
Yeah, if you want to ship us your music or
1403 Nance Street. Yeah, if you
send
listen,
us stuff to give things away.
maybe you have musicians in your local town that you think need more coverage. Send us CDs. We love to play. We played stuff from Australia and beyond.
Hey, so look, we were just talking a moment ago. Let's share with them what we were just saying. Because honestly, when the guy called in earlier, we didn't have the headphones where they could hear, so they couldn't even hear what he was saying.
it.
Okay.
So let's kind of, and I typed in there, but just tell them.
Somebody called and he was being real chill. He wanted to talk about. All he said to me was he's like, I just want to talk about the child molestation case with the police officer. That's the one we're talking about.
Yeah.
And as soon as he got on the air, he was just expressed how upset he was that we were basically he in his eyes, we were taking this opportunity to talk poorly about the cops.
He said
he thought we were gloating. We're like excited to share this horrible story of some 16-year-old getting essentially molested. I mean,
he said we were trying to stick it to the cops.
Yeah, she was a prostitute, but she was being human trafficked. So
yeah, you can't be a prostitute when you're
a minor.
Like
that's what Epstein, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Consent, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, but either way, he was basically taking the cop side in a very weird
and saying that
way.
our only objective was to stick it to the other side.
Yeah, he was making it a side thing, which was weird in itself, because what side is there other than the side of not molesting kids?
It's
just saying.
It's just a weird position. Like anyone. It's just funny that some people think that we take pleasure in that. Like, I think we do not take pleasure in. We actually hate telling those stories.
I think
every week Micah comes in begrudgingly, and he's like, "There's another one," like.
I don't like it. I'd love it to be where we don't have to talk about murdering and raping and killing authority figures, no matter what it is, whether it's Epstein's or police officers that we have here in Houston. Maybe, and if you say that and you reveal that they're part of a group like that, I guess they take it like you're attacking the entire group, which is kind of weird.
He might have been a cop.
Yeah,
which might have been a cop or had a dad cop.
Which is kind of weird because they're taking something personal that has nothing to do with them.
Throwing the baby out with the bathwater, is that the expression? Kind of.
I guess so, but at the end of the day, it's about revealing as much as possible that we can't blindly trust authority, and that should be essential in my mind. And I hate to be too nationalistic or something, but that should be essential to most average Americans. And I don't know.
The guy was I think he was just a statist is what it comes down to. He felt like when you said butthurt. You said butthurt.
I said butthurt.
I think he just felt butthurt about us he felt personally attacked. What's that mean?
And that's what I said.
I feel
he took it personal.
By this relatable content. He felt personally attacked by something we were saying, and like you said, maybe he was related to a cop. He is a cop. Who knows? But for some reason,
he never gave any concrete examples of us gloating or saying something about sides. And like I said, if there's any side, it's the side of freedom and non-oppression, right?
All right, we're going to read some of these comments, guys. Okay, when we were carrying them around, they said the audience is being manhandled. Thanks, guys. Got to start over now. Yay, nice day here in Colorado, too. Free food, yeehaw. Hey, this is cool.
Did they talk during? They didn't get to hear.
Well, I told them afterwards, and they said, let's talk about, okay. Rika says, cop apologist, trained bootlicking. Must be a Catholic priest.
Jeez.
But and
some savage comments.
What else was a major thing? We talked about their surveillance stuff today. More kind of talking about the Ring software. And man, it really, dude, when you read that, it tripped me out because people don't know that. Like you said, no, people aren't paying attention. But people don't know that 10 years ago the city voted to shut down red light cameras. 10 years ago, people were that upset about red light cameras. Now, since then, they've installed thousands of cameras around the city.
Dude, if we started getting tickets for jaywalking from those cameras, people would be up in arms.
No, it's going to be our social credit system. Yeah. It'll be our social credit score that'll go down, and it'll just be matter-of-factly then because it's all in place already.
And it'll be too late by then. It's that's I guess that's what I'm trying to say is that if there's none of us sort of hey, at least try to slow the train down because the mayor's no, we're going full force.
The other thing is, dude,
we're going faster than taxpayers could let us go.
I bet
we're going out beggar style.
I bet you anything.
Write that check.
From the houses that I go to as a dog walker, a lot of them have Ring apps. I'm pretty sure that is connected to the ones inside your house as well. And there's people with cameras inside their houses that they can turn. They can turn on the audio. So it's if we gave the cops access to the Ring app, I can only assume they would actually have some kind of access to potentially your inside. I wouldn't trust that they're not.
I imagine that in the agreement that you are signing an agreement to Ring and Amazon that they can access, just like you do on your phone, all this stuff, right? And then their agreement with the officers, with the police and the authorities, is that they can access it all. So, it's like we've seen with Stingray and all these other things. They get this access, and then it's used in all sorts of ways. And how do you know how it's used?
And we do see from other cities that Amazon's already being accused of of basically lying about how long they hold the data. And basically they partnered with the cops originally in January. There's an app called Neighbors which gives them exclusive access to like all sets of cameras. And so the mayor said they already have, Ring gave them some cameras already. It's not a full-fledged program yet, but they've already got, I guess, some people who gave them a pre-pilot program. Spot Shotter has a 5 square mile radius of some part of South Houston that they won't tell us about. But I did file open records requests yesterday to HPD, to the mayor's office, to the housing department, to the city council, requesting any and all communications over the last 2 years that had the words Amazon Inc., Ring Inc., Spot Shotter, and one other term. So, and I mean, the unfortunate thing is they take 6-7 months before they respond, before I can even get anything, right? And what's happened between now and then? It's gotten, you know, and because you have to put a date, right? So I put January 2016 to March 5th, 2019. Whatever happens after the day I filed it, I don't get those documents. So, and they take so long that they're notorious. Unless you have a lawyer to call them up and, you know, harass them, you basically just have to deal with it. And but we'll see if we can get anything, and maybe even if after the fact, at least if we get something, we'll put that.
Well, there could be all kinds of conflicts of interest. We see that quite often in a corporatist regime, right? Because, you know, they're in bed together. So that's one that's kind of, I'm not trying to say
blatantly obvious. They gave the mayor a fucking trophy.
Oh yeah, damn, fuck, shit, we can cuss now.
Yeah. I forgot.
But they did. They made our mayor a 5G champion. You know, so he loves 5G, and you know, I'm sure he loves wireless, and he probably loves Ring and Amazon. I'm not a sellout. I love wearing this Amazon shirt.
Like our radio show.
Which honestly, this is why I think it's such a cool opportunity to, you know, we get to do this on YouTube with you guys, and you guys see me regularly on YouTube. But when we do this, for those of you, some of y'all listen to the website today, and that's helpful. Micah suggested that before. Put the website on so you can hear the music, and maybe sometimes the mic doesn't work. You might not be able to hear Johnny in the other room. Which, by the way,
that way you hear the broadcast. You'll hear the show. You'll hear the phone call.
We had both of us on camera. I don't know if you saw that. We had a split screen today. So
and you were
on camera.
You were getting down in the room.
Yeah, I can see it. But did you guys hear Johnny? I want to know that. But
Derrick decided to play some songs with curse words to keep me on my toes.
Just trying to keep Johnny away.
Keep the blood flowing.
But yeah, you know, so we have this opportunity to share this information through YouTube, but then also that talk we just had about pedophilia, surveillance, coronavirus, and censorship, that just went out all around Houston and Galveston and Huntsville, so the greater Houston area where there are 3.5 to 4 million people, and who knows how many people are tuned in to that station at that time. But that's why we want you guys to call in as well more often, so that you can get your voice out there for those who are comfortable and share the ideas that you have, and also call in and call out the other cop apologists, call out the other, you know, say, hey, this is about that last
caller. We did have somebody call in after, and I think he was going to respond. MOD always calls, yeah.
Anything else you guys want to say? Want to add?
I'm good.
Love the YouTube audience. Love the comments.
Let's check the comments one more time.
Communist social credit.
Here, let's go. Okay.
Yeah,
okay, cop train bootlicking. The Chinese eat aborted babies.
Okay, battery's low.
The battery's about to die, so
I'd
we're gonna
see the
wrap it up so we don't lose.
I'm gonna wrap this up before the battery dies and we don't get to end this properly. But thank you guys for listening. Thank you for tuning in.